Hello, okay, for those of you returning to the channel, welcome back. And for those of you that are new here, that have just stumbled upon this video, then thank you for joining me. And if you find yourself wanting to stick around to follow just some random Welsh geek ramble on about film and TV, then please hit that subscribe button, it will mean an awful lot to me. And yeah, welcome to my spoiler-free review of Mercy, a science fiction action thriller directed by, and apologies if I pronounce his name incorrectly here, but it's Timur Bekmambetov, I believe. And I really liked Wanted. He directed Wanted, as well as the Day Watch and Night Watch movies. They were Russian fantasy supernatural films that came out, I think it was the early 2000s. Yeah, Night Watch was 2004 and Day Watch was 2006. And then he gave us Wanted in 2008. And a movie that I really liked, I really enjoyed. And I did catch Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. I only watched it once and I didn't really think much of it. And that's it, that's all I've seen from him up until Mercy. So the story is set in a near future Los Angeles where an AI-run legal system has replaced traditional courts, giving accused criminals only 90 minutes to prove their innocence before an AI judge delivers a verdict and carries out the sentence. Chris Pratt plays LAPD detective Chris Raven, once a leading advocate for this cutting-edge justice system, who wakes up accused of murdering his wife with no memory of the crime and is forced to race against the clock using digital evidence, surveillance data and his own ingenuity to clear his name. So, I'll be honest here, I quite liked the premise, I liked the concept, the ideas behind this story, you know, of having this judge, this AI judge, prove the innocence of a person by basing it purely on the facts that it can gain access to. And this AI has got access to everything through the network. So, you know, through mobile phones, computers, Ring doorbells, and all of that. It can access all sorts of data, which raises other questions, actually, but that's me going into another aspect of the movie that didn't quite work, which I will get into in a moment. But yeah, it can access everything. Social media, bank details, and all of that, and it just uses all these facts. It uses the CCTV to be able to prove if whoever's in this chair is going to be executed in 90 minutes or go free. And I just love that idea, because what the film does attempt to do, it's not successful at doing it, but it attempts to kind of really raise these questions around AI and us sort of relying on AI to the point where we forget about the human element and the fact that there's always going to be that grey area, that area of nuance, you know, that only humans will be able to truly sort of understand and get. And even though the idea of the AI, you know, it sounds great, it's not going to be 100% foolproof. And I kind of liked, you know, that attempt here within this story to really kind of exploring those ideas. The problem is with this film is its execution. I feel like we're getting a lot of films like this lately where we get some really good ideas within its story. The ingredients are there, but when it comes to the execution of these stories, they're just not really fully coming to life to give us something that is truly compelling. And I don't think Mercy is as terrible as a lot of people are making it out to be. You know, I've seen far worse movies than this, but it is a very bland and dull experience that, I'll be honest, I was always locked in, but that's because of the movie's setup. That's kind of the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes, where I'm like, I am invested due to sort of the setup of its story and its ideas. And I'm like, oh, you know, this could be something really exciting here and something really intriguing and, you know, dealing with AI and, you know, relying on AI so heavily that it actually, we use it to decide the fate on if someone is going to live or die. And I just found that really intriguing. What really let this movie down, among many other things, was its writing. The writing really dragged this experience down because it's as a result of the poor writing. And, you know, it just kind of lacks, in many ways, it lacks an humanity. At times, the movie feels like I'm watching AI slop. You know, that's how it feels. It just kind of lacks, the writing kind of lacks a humanity and depth there. It lacks an authenticity, so I don't really end up buying in to certain moments with these characters, you know, buying into certain events. When it comes to the twists and the turns, the movie tries to be clever, but it doesn't work because the structure isn't there to support those ideas and those sort of moments within the story that is supposed to just, you know, immerse us in to and just swallow us up. It just doesn't work because of how these characters are written and how the story sort of evolves. Like, the movie is definitely at its strongest within the first 30 minutes. Like, it isn't, like, I already know from the first 5 to 10 minutes that this movie wasn't going to be the greatest thing ever. And there were a couple of moments within the writing in the first 5 minutes that I'm like, oh, here we fucking go. But as it gets going, and, you know, it's revealed why Chris Pratt is in this chair and he's got 90 minutes to prove his innocence and all of that. I'm like, yeah, I'm interested, I'm invested. But the film just really starts to fall apart after that 30 minutes, especially with the story. And it kind of ends up flirting with its ideas and not really doing much with those ideas that lands a punch, that has an impact, that has a weight. At the same time, you know, it was okay. I would say in moments it's a little bit fun. You know, there is this energy to the movie that did remind me a little bit of Timur Bekenov's Wanted. But the energy just ends up feeling quite artificial because it's very obvious that they're trying to get you excited and caught up within the drama and the action, but it just all ends up feeling quite flat and dull because of the fact that the movie really fails with delivering on its themes and the human aspect. And overall, it just ends up feeling like I said, AI slop. But saying all of that, it's not unwatchable. This is one of those movies that you could stick on a rainy Sunday, you know, maybe in the background, but that's it. You know, there are some moments that I kind of liked. There's a certain moment, and it's an interaction between Chris Pratt, his daughter, and the AI judge. And there is something that the AI judge says in that moment, and what this judge says evokes a reaction from Chris Pratt. And it's in that very brief moment when he looks at the judge, and it was like, I kind of like that. I kind of like that moment. I'm trying to be as vague as possible here because this is a spoiler-free review. But it was kind of like a glimpse. That moment, that brief moment of Chris Pratt talking to his daughter and then the AI judge saying something that kind of really sort of took Chris Pratt's character off guard, or caught Chris Pratt's character off guard, and made him sort of look at this judge and go, oh. And it's kind of like, it's moments like that shows that they're sort of onto something when it comes to sort of the ideas and sort of the potential that is within this story. But it never really goes anywhere, and yeah, it just ends up, you know, there's this big chase scene within the third act, but it just ends up being this moment that lacks the intensity and just that kind of the immersion that I feel like a scene and a moment like that really needs to get you swallowed up within that moment. A very, very dull experience that felt like it was all kind of just put together. You know, it just all ends up feeling like this experience that was put together by AI. And they are trying to do something different by telling this story through the evidence that's within this AI. And and you've got Chris Pratt's character sort of navigating through this AI to find out who's framed him. And again, it's all very interesting on paper, and just, what they're attempting here is interesting, and I think it's interesting enough for it to have kept me locked in to a degree, but due to sort of the lack of depth and complexity within its writing, and just how the story does evolve and play out, and how it ultimately handles its themes, that is what really let the movie down. But I would definitely say that this is not unwatchable, but I wouldn't say this is a movie that you're going to rush back out to see as well. But hey, that's just me. You know, there are some positives with the movie. Chris Pratt is pretty solid as Detective Christopher Raven, this LAPD officer who is, you know, going through a bit of a turbulent time personally. You know, he's got demons, and, you know, all of a sudden he's framed for the murder of his wife, and there are aspects to that story that are interesting, and I think Chris Pratt does a solid job in bringing the character to life. Rebecca Ferguson as the AI judge, I thought she does a pretty good job at bringing this entity to life. But again, it is the writing. It is the writing that really kind of severely damages this experience, that kind of really affects sort of the overall experience, and stops me from really ultimately buying into what is happening. You know, there are some moments that just don't feel realistic. You know, you end up with these big gaping holes where there's just no logic there within the story, within certain moments, and it does stick out. I wouldn't say that this is like one of the worst movies ever made. It's a bad movie. It's not a good movie. But it's watchable. Do you know what I mean? It's fine because it kind of has things within it, I felt, that were to a degree interesting or intriguing. And like I said, that first 30 minutes, I was on board because I kind of liked what they were teasing, but it was just another one of those experiences that has the ingredients, that has the ideas, but really fails with its execution of bringing that to life in a way that just swallows you up within the experience, within sort of the drama. And it's frustrating. It was actually quite frustrating because I could kind of see it. I could see what they were doing, and like I said, you'd get that odd moment where they were sort of really sort of exploring kind of the human aspect of this sort of decision making against sort of the AI element of the story, where it's basing decision making purely on facts, and just how sort of, and the questions in which that raises. You know, there's some really interesting ideas and questions raised, but they just don't really go anywhere with them that is truly satisfying and compelling. But I definitely think this is going to be one of those experiences where people are going to enjoy it a hell of a lot more than I did. So yeah, enough rambling on from me. They are my thoughts on Mercy, and I will be giving Mercy They are my thoughts on Mercy, but have any of you guys seen it yet? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you agree or disagree with anything I've said? And please let me know in the comments below, and let's get a discussion going. And remember, if you've made it this far into the video and you find yourself wanting to stick around to follow just some random Welsh geek ramble on about film and TV, then please hit that subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot to me, and just a big thank you to everyone that has supported the channel, whether it be liking, commenting, subscribing. It means the world to me. I've just crossed 560 subscribers, and it will always overwhelm me that so many of you already do want to follow just some random Welsh geek ramble on about film and TV and pronounce things incorrectly. There's a lot of releases coming this weekend that I'm really excited for. Primate is one of those releases. The States had it, I think, the first week of January, but we're only getting it this weekend. And there's also Iron Lung, which I'm really intrigued by, and there's a few other releases that have come out that I just need to catch up with. So yeah, a lot planned, I am going to be doing a lot more live content this year as well. I am hoping to do some Comic Cons this year as well, and with that I will be doing vlogs. There are a couple of Comic Cons that I've got my eye on, due to sort of the stars that are going to be there, the actors that are going to be there. And so again, that's something that I've got in the pipeline. So yeah, enough rambling from me. That's it from me for now. Thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll be catching you guys soon.